All right, we live once again. Pro Beez, Bo from Three Kings Boxing, United Nation Boxing Show. Bo, what's crack-a-lacking?
Man, tired, man. It was a long weekend. And next weekend is just as matter of fact, this whole week is number boxing. This whole week, starting Tuesday.
That's right. We've got Triple G, and then we've also got the big fight, Canelo and Callum Smith.
You got Canelo,
two big fights.
Smith. You got Jerron Enos. There's a couple of UK fights taking place.
That's right. So it's boxing.
Never stops.
Hey, but I suppose, look, we're going to have a month or so without any fights. So, enjoy all the fights while you can this weekend. All right.
Right about that.
But what we got to talk about, we've got to talk about the weekend just gone. The big fight, Anthony Joshua and Kubrat Pulev. Now, out on the States, I'm sure you watched the fight. What did you make of AJ's victory?
It's just like I said, and when we was doing a breakdown, I said if he can build off of that Tyson Fury fight, then man, I mean not Tyson Fury. If he can build off the Andy Ruiz fight, I'm sorry. If he can build off of what we saw in the Andy Ruiz fight, man, that was big. So I saw a lot more wrinkles in this game too. Like he my man said, 2K said when we did our podcast, there's a difference between head movement and slipping the jab. A couple times he slipped the jab. Like, remember that it was one round, I think it might have been 3 or 4. He slips the jab and then catches him with a counter right hand. I'm like, oh, that's something new out of AJ. He was doing a lot more feinting when he was moving the hands, and he was doing a lot more feinting. So, you're seeing him growing comfortable into fighting like a tall man, fighting like a big man, as Emmanuel Stewart would say. He was using his reach. He was using his height. Of course, as always, the uppercuts and the hooks was always on point, right? So, I mean, man, listen, man, I mean, you can't help but to look at that and notice the improvement and be impressed because that's the AJ that if he's going to be dominant, that's the AJ that we need to see. We don't need to see the AJ that allows the smaller fighters to get in up on his wheelhouse and getting hit by counters. We need to see the AJ that can keep the fight at that range and make it easy for himself, man.
Some would call it ring generalship, using that IQ about the ring.
Yeah.
Obviously, he had that upset against Ruiz, but, you've seen he's gone back to the drawing board and added more tools to his artillery, sorry.
Well, remember I said that on the last show. I said that loss might have woken something up in him, and it kind of looked like that. Like, he's not taking no opponent lightly. Like, he's not looking toward the next fight. He's focusing on the one that's in front of him. And that's always good for you as a fighter, man. I don't think you should ever look 2 fights down the line. You should focus on the guy in front of you, man.
All right, guys, get your questions in. We're just going to kind of review the weekend's action, AJ and Pulev. But smash that like button. Pro Beezy, Bo from Three Kings Boxing. It is a party once more. All right, so look, Bo, believe it or not, we've got some people out there that just simply weren't satisfied with the manner of the victory. They thought it should have come earlier. So I was saying with Johnny Nelson in the interview that we saw a lot of variety from AJ. We saw a clinic and, we saw some new things that he was working on, that he's been working on. But some people say, well, you should have done with Pulev at the age of 39 in the 3rd round, full stop. What do you make of some of the haters?
You can't do nothing about that. Listen, man, haters, doubters, and criticism, they're always going to come. So you can't do nothing about that, right? The only thing you can do is say to yourself, they might not be satisfied with how he win, but think of the satisfaction that you would give them if you'd have taken a loss. Like, those people are waiting to say, oh, I didn't think he was that good. I mean, remember when he lost to Andy Ruiz? A lot of people, he was never that good, hype job, and blah, 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 all that, right? So winning, regardless of and I think it was Emmanuel Stewart that said this best. No, it was Larry Merchant. Sometimes you have to win and then look good in your next fight. So if they're not satisfied with this, Anthony Joshua did what he's supposed to do. You got the win. That's the most important thing, is get that freaking W. Now that you've gotten the W, now try to look impressive in your next fight. But if you can't look impressive, win. Because if they're criticizing you now after that, guess how loud that criticism is when your ass lose. So you can't do nothing about that. Should he have gotten him out earlier? I saw him go down in the third round. And if I'm not mistaken, I think at one point he was saved by the bell, I think, in the third round, right? When he was.
He turned his back, Pulev.
Right. The ref could have stopped the fight right there. When Pulev turned his back, ref could have stopped the fight, right? And give AJ credit. AJ could have tried to sneak up behind him and knock him one, but he didn't. When he comes out in the fourth round, Pulev is shown that he's not finished. So what do AJ does? He's not finished. Go back to the game plan. Go back to the drawing board. You know what I'm saying? Go back to what we worked on in the gym. Then once he realized, oh, now he really is done, I got him out of here in the ninth round. So, people who are saying what they're saying, they're always going to say that, because he could have knocked him out in the third round, and then guess what they would have said? They would say, well, how come he couldn't do it in the second? Or he looked kind of wild in there. Or, you can't do nothing about that, man. So don't even worry about it. Get the W. The most important thing is getting the W. He got the W. Bam. Now let's move on to the next fight.
Yeah. And in some ways as well, if he had knocked him out early, people over here paid £25 to watch that fight. Yeah. There would have been uproar. Oh, it was a rip-off, £25, blah, blah, blah. So you just can't please everybody, can you?
No, and you can't try to. So I mean, like I say, at the end of the day, I'll guarantee you this. Ask Anthony Joshua, which one would he have? Would he rather have the third round knockout, or the third? Would he rather have the third round knockout, or would he rather have the ninth round knockout, or would you rather have the W period? AJ will say, I'd rather have the W period. Because if you lose, there goes the biggest fight everybody wants to see, right?
Exactly. So you got the biggest fight in ages, right? We're on the brink for that fight to happen. So literally, there can be no slip-ups at all. So you're kind of contemplating, that risk factor at the same time, whilst being in there with a dangerous opponent like Pulev. So multiple angles to think about. All right, guys, I'm going to take some of your questions. We'll take it from the top.
Put it on the screen.
All right. Okay. Christopher Lovejoy potentially joining us a little bit later as well from the west side. We've got the east side already in the building. Chi-town.
Midwest.
Midwest, baby.
Yeah.
All right. We'll take it from the top. Okay. All right, Bo, list your top 5 heavyweights right now.
Wow. All right. So you got Anthony Joshua. And this is in no order, right? I'm just naming 5 heavyweights, right? Anthony Joshua, Tyson Fury. I think you can. Deontay Wilder is still there because he only lost to Tyson Fury, who's looking like he's the best. All right. You still got Luis Ortiz, and you have to throw Usyk in there also as well. Okay. Now you can make a case for guys like Povetkin. You can make a case for Dylan White, although Dylan White just lost. You got Oscar Rivas and Michael Hunter. Michael Hunter is the dark horse to me in the heavyweight division. He's a really dark horse. But yeah, those are the top 5 that when I'm looking at the sport and I'm like, yo, man, who are the guys that can generate something that people want to see right now? Those are the guys right there.
All right. Michael Hunter's fighting real soon, isn't he? So
he's fighting on Zordo Promotions. Gilberto Ramirez, who left Top Rank, and people forgot about him. He's like forgotten. But Gilberto Ramirez, he has his own thing called Zordo Promotions, and Michael Hunter's actually filling in. He's actually filling in and for that. So yeah.
Is this sort of like not a criticism to Michael Hunter, but again, some of his caliber, should kind of be on bigger shows, and this is what potentially is holding him back in his career in terms of the mega fights.
I think the thing with Hunter that's hurting him is he's a free agent. He's not with nobody, right? So by him being a free agent, it's going to be really hard for him to get in the mix because these organizations not going to take a chance on risking their investment against a guy that has no attachment to anything, right? So he may have to consider signing with somebody, and that's the thing about being a free agent. Like when you look at guys like Oscar and Floyd and Canelo Alvarez, well, they got the cachet to be a free agent. Like Gilberto Ramirez leaving Top Rank and being a free agent. Well, dude, you don't have the cachet that these guys got the cachet to do that. They got the name. Even Mikey Garcia, when he did it, they got a name to do it. You know what I'm saying? So that's what's going to be hard for Michael Hunter is you're in a division that's very, very hot, very, very heavy. And you are a dangerous opponent in that division, and you're not tied to anybody. So nobody's going to take that risk of, of doing that, of putting their guy in with you. They're not going to take that risk, man.
And you remember we was talking last week about fighters not showing too much in sparring. Otherwise, they might not get the fights down the line.
Yeah.
Now, I know Michael Hunter has sparred the best of them, right? We know that. Right. Maybe that's another reason why they're like, no, stay away from Michael Hunter. That kid dangerous.
Oh, yeah. Listen, man. Michael Hunter fought Usyk. Now, mind you, he gets up off his couch. He hadn't been fought in a year. He gets off his couch, and then he goes down in weight, and he gave Usyk a hard time. Like, if that would have been a Michael Hunter that had fought, that was active, he probably would have beaten Usyk, So just think about that for a second. And I thought he beat Alexander Povetkin. He got a draw. I thought he beat Alexander Povetkin. But, man, Michael Hunter is a dark horse, man. Michael Hunter is one of those fighters that you don't – if you got a prospect like Junior Fa, what's his name, Hrgović.
Hrgović, yeah.
Yeah, Hrgović. Those guys, I would think – I don't know if I throw them in there with Michael Hunter. I would be kind of hesitant to do Joe Joyce like that, although Joe Joyce is a little bit older. He's a little bit more mature. He has a higher ring IQ level. I still would be hesitant to do it with him.
Mm-hmm. The bounty hunter, Michael Hunter. All right. Yeah. I'm sure we're going to see him in some big fights real soon. It's only a matter of time, as they say. All right, we'll work our way through these questions. Guys, smash that like button. Bo, Pro Beez in the building. Thanks for joining. All right. Arthur Bell. I still don't think AJ looks right. Might have lost some confidence, which is understandable, but there's something of him. There's something off with him.
I think sometimes when a guy is doing something new, right? For example, remember when Sean Porter fought Ugas?
Yes.
And he boxed, right? And we like, yo, what the hell?
This ain't Sean. Yeah, this ain't Sean. This ain't my boy Sean.
Right. So you looked at that and you felt like, I believe Ugas won that fight, right? Okay. And I think sometimes when you see a guy do something different and new, it kind of looks off because he kind of looks like, especially when it's new to him, he hasn't got it down pat yet. Like Anthony Joshua is not used to being a moving, like what you saw against Michael Hunter. He's not used to being, not Michael Hunter, against Kubrat Pulev. He's not used to being a moving fighter like that. He's not used to a fighter using his feet, giving you angles and face. That's not who he is. So he's gonna look a little off because he hasn't grown into being comfortable with doing it where it looks relatively easy for him. So I don't think he looked off. I think what you saw is somebody that realized there's a lot at stake and decided to stick to the game plan and a winning game plan because you don't want to – I'm not saying don't take a risk, right? But you need to do what you need to do to win to get to the big fight. Now you let it all out in the big goddamn fight. But when a fight in front of you is easy, if you can beat this dude with a jab him all freaking night. Now in the big fight, yeah, hell yeah, go all out. But get to that fight first. And I think that's what you saw was an Anthony Joshua that realized what he had in front of him, and he knew what he had to do, and he wanted to get past that to get to that next step.
To get to the bag, as they say, the big bag. The undisputed bag.
Small.
Yeah, the briefcase.
He want
yeah, the duffel bag.
Yeah, he want the bag, baby. He want the bag.
Now, do you know what? I think we saw a change in Anthony Joshua from the Joseph Parker fight a few years back, where again, he used a little bit more ring IQ. He didn't just go straight for the knockout. We saw a guy that was trying to switch it up. And since then, we've been seeing that evolvement, up until the fight last weekend. So I think people just need to understand that you need to show different sides to your game. You know, Fury done it against Wilder. You saw the 2 fights.
Mhm.
Fury boxed the move, first fight, real slick. Second fight, just said, look, let's have it. I'm going to have a tear up. I'm going to back you up. I'm going to do some damage.
You know, the funny thing about Tyson Fury is that's the most exciting Tyson Fury fights have ever been.
Mm.
You know, I mean, his
styles make fights.
Yeah, it's the most exciting he's ever been. And I think that the biggest mistake that I want to say that Wilder team let happen was they allowed Tyson Fury to have 2 more training camps after the first fight. And then
I get that. Yeah.
They allowed a guy who wasn't 100%. Like, that's why when Wilder immediately rematched him, I was like, great, yep, immediately rematch him, right? Because if you immediately rematch him, it's going to be on his mind that you knocked him the hell out twice. You knocked him down, twice. That's going to be on his mind, right? But you allowed him to get 2 other fights in. Now that's in the past now. Now he's not even thinking about it now. You know, like he had the 1 fight to get the jitters out. Then he had another fight to build his confidence. So he's not even thinking about it now, you know. And that was a huge mistake that they made. That's why when I look at the fight with him and Anthony Joshua and Tyson Fury, I'm intrigued, man. I can't wait for that fight.
Yeah, it's really intriguing because, like I said, both fighters have shown that they can do different things now. You know, Fury's just not the guy that's slick now. You know, he's a guy that can hurt you also. And AJ now is moving about now with some of that ring IQ. Not to say that he didn't have it, but I'm saying that he's showing different sides to what he can do. So I think the fighter with the game plan that is the most on point come that fight will be successful in that fight, you know. But there's wonderful angles about it. You know, both fighters have paid their dues. Both fighters are at the top of their game. We need this fight to happen straight away. No doubt about it.
I think for me, and this is going to sound crazy, I actually kind of more like Joshua versus Fury than Joshua versus Wilder, because it's intriguing, because this is going to be technically a fight of 2 guys that are very technical. And Joshua I believe Joshua has more pop than Fury, but Fury isn't the guy that sits on his punches anyway. He kind of like stays on the balls of his feet. And normally when you're on the balls of your feet, you're not planted to generate enough power you need to knock someone out, right? And I like that more than Wilder, only because when you analyze a Wilder fight, what do you say? Well, you know, if he lands the right hand, that's simple. Like, you know, like that's simple to break down. You know, all he has to do is not get hit. That's it. And all he has to do is try to land the right hand. That's it. I like fights that make me think when I'm doing my breakdown.
Because you're hardcore. The casuals want the Wilder versus Joshua. Yeah, it's because you're hardcore. And this is what I'm saying. I think you could appreciate Anthony Joshua's performance last weekend. So could I. I was looking at it saying, yeah, this is nice. This is real nice. I was looking at the footwork. I was looking at the feinting, the slipping, the rolling. And I was like, yeah, sweet science all day. All day.
I was like, oh, what? Hold on.
We appreciate that.
When he did it, and, you know, Floyd Mayweather was there, I'm like, yo, did Floyd visit his camp? Did Floyd visit that man's camp, man? That's a Floyd Mayweather move, right? I said, nah, did Floyd visit his camp, man?
Yeah, the full counter. Boop.
Yeah.
You know, lovely. It was lovely. But the casuals, obviously, look, the casuals just looking for the highlight reel. Straight knockout, no long. That's it. They don't care about the sweet science. But look, we all like different things. I get that, you know. But for me, AJ performed really, really well that on the weekend. All right, heading to another question, guys. Smash that like button. Pep Talk UK, 3 Kings boxing. You know, I said it in the American accent. Boxing.
You know what, man? My man has come a long way. I think I saw a video. It's an old video. Y'all was on this thing called Fan TV.
Yeah. That's it. Yeah.
Fan TV. It was you, Angela Hepton, and my man Pierre.
Pascal. Yeah.
Right. Pascal. And I looked at that, I was like, wow, dude, you know how you looked a lot thinner.
I was a lot thinner.
You was
I was a lot thinner. Probably about 2.5 stone thinner.
Dog, I looked at that. I was like, holy crap. Like, was it really that long ago? Because it was, I think it was shortly after that. That's when we hooked up.
Mm.
Yeah, I was like, holy crap. Wait a minute. Was it really that long?
It's crazy, man. It's crazy, man. That feels like, it feels like decades ago.
Yeah,
You
it
know?
does.
But look, man, what was that, 3-4 years ago? But to all those out there, just keep striving, stay consistent. All right. Okay. Undisputed Truth says AJ won every round, knocked Pulev out. Still Joshua getting criticized. This is exactly what we talked about.
Well, that's gonna happen. I mean, you can't do nothing about it. I mean, listen, the only thing I've ever seen people not criticize is money. That's it.
That's true. Yeah. All right. Good question from Shaz. Shaz in the building. Pep Talk boys. All right. WBO President Pacquiao Varicel said they've granted 2 exceptions to AJ for Ruiz and Pulev and won't be willing to do another for the Tyson Fury fight. AJ must fight Alexander Usyk or vacate. Discuss, gentlemen.
All right. I think what people have to, people are missing one thing. Yes, they did grant him an exception. Okay. And they did it because Alexander Usyk has been the Mando for a minute, right? Now, I think the one thing people are missing here is this. Number one is if Usyk decides, I'm the Mando, but I'm not ready, I'll step aside and let the fight happen. I think the WBC would take that in consideration because the actual guy that's the mandatory is willing to chill out and, you know, stand down, right? Now, and we also talked about this at Prodigy of Boxing Talk with the Three Kings Boxing Podcast with my man 2K. Now, let's just say if Usyk realized, man, I can get a lot of money. Like, I'm looking at the money. Like, we was at Wembley. I can get a lot of money on top of...
Hold on. One shot about to join us. Sorry to interrupt.
Who?
All right. West side in the building. West side. You and I know it's the best side, as Tupac says. Hey, heavyweight Christopher Lovejoy joining us.
What's up, man?
What's going on, Chris?
What it do? What it do, nephew?
Y'all hear me?
Yeah.
Yeah, how you doing? You good?
I can't hear nothing.
Oh, you can't hear us?
I can hear. I can hear him.
Yeah, we can hear you.
Let me log out and log back in.
All right, 100.
Oh no, I hear you now.
All right, okay, cool.
What's up,
all right,
man?
We good. We're just talking about AJ against Pulev at the weekend. Sorry, Bo, we'll come back to your point.
Hey, where we at right now, man? No, I'm talking about what city we in? What city we in? Miami Gardens? All right, sick. I'm in Miami.
You're Miami. MIA.
Okay, you're in Miami.
All right.
Hey, you just come out the barbershop.
I'm about to get my hair cut.
Yeah.
Yeah, man. I'm next door to Jamaica House, my favorite restaurant. I forgot what was going on. So
okay.
I my spot in the barbershop. And yeah. I'm next. What's happening? Talk to me.
All right.
Hey, what did you think of AJ's performance?
He did what he was supposed to do. Kind of like I said, he wasn't gonna rush it. I think like everybody else know, he probably could have got him out of there a little earlier. That's it. You know, he went at his own pace, and I think he could have finished him a little earlier. I can't take that away from him. He won. He didn't take no damage.
So you said that he should have done him. He should have finished the fight earlier. That's what you're saying, right?
Yeah, I would have did that. I would have just got him fighter early. You know.
Okay.
He's sitting there doing this.
All right. So, in your eyes, has that sort of lessened the credibility of the victory for you?
What do you mean?
Like, in your opinion, is the win not good enough in your perspective? You're expecting him to knock him out?
No. Like I said, can't take nothing away from him. He did knock him out. He won. It is what it is. He won. I can't take that away from him. You know, he didn't take no damage. He did what he was supposed to do. He ain't got to rush it. His job ain't to go in there and knock him out in the first round. He did like I thought he would do. Take his time. When it's open, he'll take it. You know, you got the thirsty boxing fans who like that grit, that killer instinct boxing, get him out of there now. When they see blood, they want him to take it. So Some people feel like he should have left in the third round. Some people feel like as soon as he got him hurt, he should have been out of there. But no, he did good. He did cool.
What do you? I'll let you shoot.
Chris, I said earlier that the most important thing is you got to get that W. If you don't get that W, the criticism is higher than that right there, right? So
Right.
when you look at that, what is it? Why do you think, regardless of what fighters do, whether they get a guy out early, late, but they give you the knockout, why do you think people still criticize the performance?
Well, they criticize it because they're gonna criticize regardless. Nobody steps in that ring so knows what's going on. You know, he could take a chance and he can get knocked out. It's happened before. So, you know, like I said, the boxing fan wants to see the first round of Mike Tyson, 1,000 punches a round type of thing. You know, I think he did better this performance than he did with the Andy Ruiz 2 performance. Andy Ruiz 2, you can argue that he was much more conservative. Some people might say he ran, and some people might say he fought scared. But he was 10 times more aggressive this fight.
What would you do to Pulev? Yeah, go on.
One more thing, you're down there in Miami. Are you in training camp in Miami? And if you are, let me warn you, stay away from the beaches and the women, man.
I'm staying on the beach. I came down here to come see Don King. We meet tomorrow at 12 noon. So I got big fight news coming at 12 noon tomorrow. Y'all the first to get it. Tune in.
I bet.
All right.
I'm either living there with a murder case or I'm living there with a release. But how they want it. I ain't going home without a release. What's the money?
Is Don King, is he going to bring the Goonies to the meeting, yeah?
Nah, I got one in my back pocket. Only one I can trust.
All right.
They're going to tell on you these days.
What would you have done to Pulev if you fought him?
Man, I would do the same thing Joshua did. Weigh him out. You know, any boxer tell you, you know, after the first round, it'll slow down. So with him, like I thought he would slow down 5 or 6 rounds, I would have just boxed him. Yeah, walk around, slow him down for a round or two, and I would just got in attack mode. I wouldn't have got an exchange attack mode with him first round, but I would have moved around with him and see where he's at. See where his power's at, see where his speed at, see where his reflexes is at, and just test him a little bit. I wouldn't even take no chances first 2 rounds. So the third round come, he'd be a little slower down. I could try something. I'm a risk taker. I just tried on him. AJ didn't really throw no 1-2s. And AJ is vulnerable for that 1-2 I saw. You know, because he's looking for a pull counter. He could have got 1-2 his damn self.
Hey, when you you know, when you look at your boy Michael Hunter, he's a free agent right now, right?
Yeah, he fight this weekend.
Sure does on Gilberto Ramirez undercard, Zordo Promotions.
Yeah.
When you're a free agent, it's harder for you being a free agent because you're not tied to any like known or named network to have some pull. How hard are you going to think? And if you wind up leaving Don King, man, how hard are you going to think it's going to be for you guys as free agents to try to get some of these other people putting their investment in the ring with you because you possibly can beat them and you're dangerous?
Well, Michael Hunter's situation was once he fought them first 1 or 2 fights, he was basically a B-side fighter. And when I say a B-side fighter, you're not the main of the show, you know. And if you lose, no one's surprised. The point I'm making is that he was in that situation his last couple of fights, and I'm gonna be in that situation whether I'm with them or not, because they're not putting the show behind me.
Okay. I'm
coming in against the gun. So that's just how it's gonna be. So as far as the question you're asking me is that it'll be the same thing. I think it'll be the same thing. It won't be harder. It's harder if you're looking for a promoter to baby you, give you a heads up, and you guys come together and pick an opponent to get you on the winning side. But if you just want to fight, which I think Mike Hunter just want to fight like me, it don't really matter. It's better when you don't have a promoter and network restrictions, because if the fight don't happen, it's on you.
I see.
You can say the money wasn't right, or the timing wasn't right, or the opponent wasn't right. Because it's all on you. You ain't got no restrictions. Promoter, you can have dates and demands, and you can have all different kind of stuff going on to where you can turn down that fight, and your promoter can work with you and say, "No, we got a fight coming up this fight," just because he don't want you to fight that person, but he don't want his fighter to look bad. You know, you can say that's too short notice. Me, ain't no short notice. I'm getting this release. I'm flying to London. I'm going to all their gyms. I'm gonna do two things. I'm going to their gyms, doing Tyson Fury gym and Joshua gym. I just want some work. I'm gonna be at their gym, sparring. I want some work. What's happening? Then I'm gonna stay out there, pull up on the bubble. I'm out here on standby for when y'all fake an injury or when y'all catch COVID. I'm on standby. What's happening? 19-0.
Right.
What's happening?
You about to pull up?
I'm pulling up.
All right. All right.
I pulled up out here.
All right. All right.
Get that bag. Mike trying to get that bag.
He thought I wasn't gonna pull up on him. Nigga, I'm here.
All right. All right. Guys, get your questions in. All right. We're going to just ask some questions from the viewers to Bo and yourself. So, okay. Smash that like button. Meanwhile. All right. Undisputed truth. This is to you, Bo. If Wilder or Fury had demolished Pulev, they would be hailing them as the greatest in the division. The difference is they hold Joshua to a different standard than the other two. Is that a fair comment, Bo?
It's half fair. If Wilder would have beat Pulev, they would have been doing it. But you also have to look at the fact that outside of Tyson Fury, the only other quality, I guess, heavyweight you can say Wilder fought was Ortiz. Now, you may have to give him Stavern because Stavern was a champion. So when you look at Pulev, it's like, yeah, okay, finally, you know, there you go. You fight another legit top 10, you know, heavyweight, right? I don't think so much as Fury they'd be saying the greatest because Tyson Fury already beat Vladimir Klitschko. He already did that. So I think the double standard is if you're talking to just the casual fans who are in the chat rooms and the boxing chat rooms that have decided that they prefer Wilder or Fury or whatever, yeah, you might find that with them. But if you're talking to guys in the sport of boxing like that, we're not gonna. There's no difference for us. Like Anthony Joshua beating Pulev was impressive, especially the way he beat him. If Wilder would have did the same, I'd have said, okay, you fought a top quality heavyweight and you looked impressive and beaten. Same thing with Tyson Fury. I think stuff like that, when you're talking about that type of division, those are just those are the casual fans that be in the chat room.
All right, Chris, the question to you. Is Anthony Joshua under more scrutiny than the other fighters?
The last part broke up. Is he under more scrutiny for what?
Is he under more scrutiny than the other fighters? Does he get judged more unfairly than the other fighters?
It depends on by who.
The fans.
I think at this point, he'll be judged after his next fight or two. You know, I can't say he's been judged too much because, I mean, he fought Dylan White and, you know, he avenged his loss. You know, which a lot of people say he shouldn't never even fought Ruiz. You know, WBO told him that you don't fought 2 fights already. You haven't fought your mandatory. So now we're gonna see what type of scrutiny he's under. I don't think he's under none yet, but this next fight is gonna tell it all right here. You know, whether he's gonna be under any scrutiny or pressure from the fans or pressure from the boxing community.
All right.
So I think he has to fight Usyk or Fury. You know, and everybody really want to fight Fury. I mean, they might have to pay an extension for the WBO belt to extend the sanctioning fees because WBO has to be okay with him fighting Fury. You know,
there's
Usyk
a story.
can wait.
There's a story that's emerged today. The story is that the fight can go ahead as long as the winner agrees to vacate right after. Have you heard about that?
That's understandable, and that might happen, and they might do it just for the history, just so they can say they did it to make it undisputed. But why would they have to vacate? I mean, Tyson Fury's worthy enough of a defense. You know, it's not like Ruiz happened to have a vacant belt and he's fighting Ruiz. You know what I'm saying? And they're saying that well, not a vacant belt, but He's just in the way. Tyson Fury's undefeated. Motherfucker beat Wilder twice. He beat Klitschko. Shit, #1 Ring magazine. Why they gotta vacate?
So
that don't make no sense. But
I'm saying that,
regardless of what they're saying, as long as they're doing whatever they gotta do to make the fight happen for all 4 of the belts, that's a good thing. Now the vacate after that, I don't know why they're doing that, because Fury is a worthy enough opponent. You know, it's not like someone else. It's not he fighting someone else. And then they're going to say, well, he's not even worthy, but we'll let y'all fight for that, but y'all got to vacate because he's not worthy. Fury, I think Fury's worthy enough for that.
Okay, so all right.
That came out today?
Yeah, well, there's a report. It's a report today. But I guess we'll see what's going to happen this week. Bo, is there anything that you'd like to? Obviously, we'll just take it back and forth. Maybe pick one of the questions, man, from one of the viewers.
I just realized how to look at the comment, and I see one right here. This is for Chris, and I want his response. MTK Live Horizontal HD says, "Sorry, but that guy's an absolute bum. He never had no intention on fighting Dave Allen."
We can all laugh at it. We can all laugh at it, man. You know, listen. That's why I'm going to London. They say I use that as a free vacation, so I'm gonna go spend my own money, and I'm not gonna be locked in the bubble, and I'm gonna wiggle around that motherfucker, and they're gonna tell me it's a free vacation in. and we might pull up on Dave Allen, see where he at. Since you mysteriously retired 2 weeks after the fight, you was in good health and all that, but you decided to retire. So, you know, we might go give him a visit too.
Wow. Bro, man, you like to cause trouble, man.
Hey, listen, I didn't call him a bomb, but here's the thing with that, man, is when people say that, right? I like when people say that when the fighter's on, because I want to get the fighter's response to that, because it's easy to say you're a bomb and then leave and don't, you know, then the fighter don't get a chance to say something back to you, man.
This is the thing. It don't faze me none. #1, I'm 19-0, 19 knockouts. Now, if I was, 0-19, you might have a legitimate way to say, you can't call me a bum if I'm 19-0, 19 knockouts. And I'll pull up and fight somebody who got 10 times more experience than me, and they stop the fight not because of me. So, I mean, they just talking, and I'm not mad at them. That's the way they was raised. They don't know no better. And, I'm glad they tuned into the sport of boxing, because that's how I'm making a living. So, I'm not mad at them, because they're going to hate you for whatever you do. I'm just glad they're watching me. They're watching me. They're tuning in me right now. If they got something to say about me, I'm in their mind. I'm doing something right.
All right, guys, smash that like button. Also, tell us your predictions for Canelo and Callum Smith this weekend. We got to talk about that fight. All right, Bo. Callum Smith has got a monstrous task against one of the pound-for-pound best in Canelo. How do you see him getting on?
Man, Callum Smith he's one of those fighters that he has inconsistent moments. He has a lot of fights where he's inconsistent, right? You can't be inconsistent against Canelo Alvarez. Now, the thing about fighting a Canelo Alvarez is it's not so much as the fight, it's the event. That whole event can be taxing mentally and physically on you. The whole big fight thing can be taxing on a fighter mentally and physically, right? Then on top of that, Callum Smith is fighting. Understand, he's fighting in Texas, the Alamo Dome. The biggest robbery in boxing took place there when Chavez got a draw against Pernell Whitaker, right? Do y'all really think that they won't do the same thing again to Callum Smith? Callum Smith has to knock out Canelo Alvarez. That's how you win. You got to knock Canelo Alvarez out. You still might get a draw. Like, that's how popular Canelo is, man.
For sure.
He's going into serious hostile territory where everything's going to be against him. The fans, judges, everything's going to be against him. And Canelo Alvarez ring IQ and boxing ability is at its highest level, is peaking. Callum Smith is going to have to be 100% focused and 100% of his A game to win that fight. I don't think he beats him only because I think
You're going to
that.
get my cut. I'm just getting the line up. If y'all still on, I'm going to tap back in about 15, 20 minutes.
All right. No problem.
Let's do this.
All
right. Cheers, man.
Cheers.
All right. Go on, Bo.
So Callum Smith is going to have to not only bring his A game, he's going to have to be more focused than he ever was in his career because, mind you, he cannot get himself in a situation where Canelo Alvarez is giving the appearance he has control of this fight. Canelo Alvarez don't even really have to do a lot. He just have to look like I have control of this fight. Austin Trout also fought Canelo Alvarez at the Alamo Dome. Remember they had the open
everyone talks about that fight, Austin Trout and Canelo.
And I remember they had that open floor, and then Austin Trout thought, okay, you know what? I'm in control. I'm about to turn it on. And they told him, man, they got you. You ain't winning. He said, I ain't winning no rounds. So he had to change how he was fighting, right? So I like the fight. I just think that right now, Canelo is still that big of a name with that much of boxing behind him to where if you don't at least knock this dude out or knock him down, I don't think you're going to get a decision in Texas at the Alamo Dome against Canelo Alvarez, man. Oh, yeah, you know what? I saw my girl in here. Where my girl at? I saw my girl was in here.
Oh, Lady Chan, yeah?
Yeah.
Oh, let's have a look for a comment.
I saw my girl in here.
All right, big up Lady Chan in the chat also. Make sure you subscribe to Lady Chan's channel.
Yeah, I saw my girl in here, Lady Chan. I'm not a teen. I'm not a teen. I'm not a teen, mate. I saw my girl, lady. You know, actually, shout out to her. I went to her channel. She be putting in some work. I saw some of her videos where she had Dean White on, and I saw some other videos where she talked to some other guys. So, hey man, you know, hey, shout out to her. But yeah, man, it's a tough task for Callum Smith.
100%, 100%. And Canelo just don't get knocked. He just don't get knocked out, and he just don't get knocked down. So that's food for thought. But look,
it's impossible. Boxing, man. He has one of the best chins in boxing, man.
All right. Okay. Let's engage some of the viewers. Guys, smash that like button. Bo, Three Kings, Boxing, Pro Beezy. All right. We'll take it from the top. All right. Luke Beresford says, shout out to Pep Talk UK. Can we take a minute and hail the Gypsy King, Tyson Fury? Look, Fury's a hell of a fighter.
Yeah,
we can't deny he's paid his dues in the game. What was he? British champion at 23. The guy has gone to enemy soil and beat 2 world champions. You got to rate the man. You got to rate the man. We take our hats off to Tyson Fury, no doubt about that. And that fight with AJ is simply mouth-watering because we have the 2 best heavyweights potentially going to get on. And please make it happen. Please. I think had a bad year, 2020.
I think the thing with Tyson Fury outside of his boxing skills is Tyson Fury is excellent at getting in your head. I don't care how hard you try. This dude can get in your head. And I saw what Kubrat Pulev was talking to Joshua, and Joshua was talking back, right? Well, here's the difference, though. Tyson Fury can get in your head in such a way that when he says something, the other guy has to be like, yo, I believe him, you know? Like, yo, I believe him, you know? He does a great job at knowing how to get in your head. And that's one thing that Joshua is going to have to be extremely careful of, because just like he did Deontay, man, he'll go on social media and dog you all week, all the way up to the fight, you know, like he does those things where he dogs you all, you know, during the fight on social media. Then, of course, when you guys are in front of each other, he knows these little tricks and everything like that to get up underneath your skin and get you out of your character. So that's going to be a big key. Like, I'm waiting for it to start because I already know how Tyson Fury is going to kick this off with Anthony Joshua, man. It's going to be I can't wait. I hope that fight is next.
Yeah. You know what was interesting? The fight against Klitschko, all those years back when he dressed up as Batman at the press conference. Now, look, it was funny. It was amusing, but I think he kind of gave Klitschko a false sense of security. You know, you thought, okay, this guy is a joker, he's funny, etc., etc. But it was part of the game plan to get into his mind and think, hold on a minute, I'm not really serious about my job. You know what I mean? Not serious. He's not serious about winning a world title. Exactly. And we saw even on the night itself, Klitschko did not know what the hell to do that night. He just didn't know how to land that right hand. He didn't know, he couldn't really dominate with a jab. He couldn't, you know what I mean? He couldn't control Fury that night. And that was part of the mental mind games that Fury played.
Well, look at
before the fight and during the fight.
Look at the Deontay Wilder rematch, right? He's talking about, I'm in the best shape of my life, mate, in the best, and he comes in at 274 pounds. Think about that. You got a guy telling you how he's going to be in the best shape of his life. He's coming in ready. He's going to be fine-tuned. You know, I'm going to be fit and all this. And he comes in 274. So Wilder and them gets a sense of security of, oh, man, this dude, man, we're going to beat this guy. He's going to be tired by the third round. Then he goes in there and he jumps on you. He puts the, you know what I'm saying? So, Tyson Fury told us, I'm going to be boxing you. You're not going to see me, mate. I'm going to be boxing you. And he comes out and he comes right at you.
You see, that's the thing. You just don't know. But again, you got to have more than one game plan at the elite level. You know, Fury's shown that. Now AJ's also shown that as well in his last couple of fights. So, whoever has the best game plan for those two undisputed fights or those two mega fights will prevail as victorious. All right, guys, get your questions in. Smash that like button. All right, we've got quite a few to get through. All right, Matthew De Souza. All right, sounds like a gangster, yeah? De Souza. I like that. All right, he is judged more because he is hyped up by Sky and Matchroom as he was Ernie Schaefer's.
As though he was Ernie Schaefer's. No, it's a little bit more than Ernie Schaefer. Ernie Schaefer really wasn't. I would give him something higher than Ernie Schaefer. Ernie Schaefer never won a world champion. He was just a guy who hit really hard. I would say if you're going to compare him to somebody that's being hyped up and everything, I would say like Gennady Golovkin or somebody like that, you know, because Gennady was seriously hyped. But if you're saying that AJ is more criticized because of the hype he had on him when it comes to Matchroom and Eddie Hearn and them, the thing with that is, if we're looking at it from in its totality, right? I don't think there was more pressure or he was under more scrutiny because Anthony Joshua was conceivably well liked, right? It's Deontay Wilder that became the villain, that took on the villain role. And there's a lot of people that didn't like that. There was a lot of people that the villain role with Deontay Wilder felt it wasn't genuine because remember, the first thing he came out like a guy fighting because his daughter had this illness and he was fighting for his daughter. I remember that vividly. When he was Oscar De La Hoya, people forget that he was with Oscar De La Hoya and he was this dude that took up boxing because he wanted his daughter had this illness and he wanted to do something for his daughter. Then later on, this apparent street thug gangster came out and everybody like it didn't feel as to where Anthony Joshua was more of the nice guy. Now, did you have those people that didn't like Joshua? Yeah, but that's because that's when boxing created are you Team Joshua or Team Wilder? That's what boxing created. So you had to pick a side. So if you're Team Wilder, yeah, you scrutinize Joshua. But I don't think he's been under more scrutiny because no one's ever questioned Anthony Joshua's resume. People question Deontay Wilder's resume all the time. They like, you got 40 fights and you ain't fought nobody. They question that resume all the freaking time when they come to him. They questioned before. Windmill Wilder, remember? Remember all that Windmill Wilder? Like, they questioned him all the time. So I think that for me personally, I don't think Joshua was under any scrutiny. But you got to understand this is the heavyweight division. And in the heavyweight division, when you have a rivalry like you had going on with USA and UK, then everything one fight is going to do is going to be magnified times 10. I mean, the heavyweight division, when you're the heavyweight champion of the world, it's like being a rock star. You know, everybody's going to know who you are. People over here know Anthony Joshua. Anthony Joshua has fought in Saudi Arabia, right? Now everybody knows who Deontay Wilder is because he's connected to Joshua. Joshua grew bigger because he's being connected to Deontay Wilder. Now Tyson Fury is thrown in the mix, right? So now that Tyson Fury is thrown in the mix, now it's even bigger because it's like, whoa, this to be the first time in the history of the UK you'll have an undisputed fight between two British fighters on British soil at Wembley Stadium. That's huge. And then on top of that, Joshua fought Vladimir Klitschko and blew a record at Wembley Stadium, and he might blow his own record when he fight Tyson Fury. So, that's just a situation of being the top dog in the historically the most glorified division in all of boxing.
Well said. All right, Michael M., this is a funny comment. All right, he's questioning Luis Ortiz's age. Ortiz is like 50.
Yeah, it might be true.
That's that is one of the questions in boxing that a lot of people ask. They say, look, man, this guy ain't 40. This guy ain't 40.
The Cubans, they've always been suspicion of their age being documented, man. Documented their age. So,
all right.
I want to. You got something on here. Undefined Exodus. He said Joshua don't need Wilder. Stop it. I never said Joshua needed Wilder. I never said that. I never said that. I said when you have a rivalry, which is USA versus UK, then that's boxing created Team Joshua and Team Wilder, right? But in the grand scheme of things, actually, Anthony Joshua did need Deontay Wilder because Wilder was a WBC champ. So if Joshua wanted to be undisputed, he does need Deontay Wilder, and vice versa with Deontay. Now, if you want to say who need who more, Wilder needed Joshua more than Joshua needed Wilder. I'll go on record in saying that. But they both needed each other because it's because of the rivalry that both these guys was able to amass where they are in boxing right now, with everybody paying attention to what they were doing.
All right. Okay. I just picked out a random one. What happened to Uncle T boxing? Is he still trying to link up with Shannon Courtney? Uncle T is good. I ain't seen him for a little while since the lockdown and all that, but shout out Uncle T. I'm not too sure what's going on, but shout out my guy, Uncle T, 100. Mm-hmm. All right. This is another question, all right? And I know you're going to have a difference of opinion here.
Okay.
Right. So one of the viewers, Michael M., has also said the UK is where boxing's at right now. You being an American, right? And I know you watch a lot of the fights over here. Is that something that you agree with?
UK is where the boxing is right now. I think before COVID-19, I probably would have disagreed with that statement. Because, but I think right now, you have to really look at that. I think when you look at the USA, we are having fights here, but they're happening in the bubble. Okay. Now they're letting people in attendance in Texas. So they're like Texas. So they're letting people in attendance in Texas. And I think Wembley Stadium is starting to open up. I think at certain divisions, you can look at it and say it's there. Like when you look at the junior welterweight division with Josh Taylor, right? When you look at Tyson Fury, when you look at Anthony Joshua, okay? You got other fighters coming up. Katie Taylor is another reason why you would probably want to pay attention to what's going on over there in UK, all right? If you look at Katie Taylor and that division from 126 all the way up to maybe 140 with Katie Taylor, Amanda Serrano, Cecilia Brakas, Jessica McCaskill, Chantel Cameron, all of them in that mix. Well, those fights are probably going to happen over there in UK because they're all part of Matchroom, right? In the zone. So I definitely see and get that. What else? Of course, you have some of the lower weight fights, right? Lewis Richardson is starting to come into his own. So you have you have him. Lawrence Okolie is going to be fighting for a world championship. The cruiserweight division is mostly always going to be UK or over there in Europe because most of those there's no US cruiserweights, right? So you're going to have that. So I'm not going to say he's wrong. I'm just going to say that when you look at it, again, when you take a deep, hard look at it, you can make a case for it. But, of course, looking at the fights that we didn't have over here in pay-per-view and all that, boxing is still, we still run the show, baby. We still run the show, man. We still run the show.
Yeah. But, interesting, the point that you made was really you can talk about the weight class and sort of, make comments. So, welterweight, come on. Danny Garcia, Sean Porter, Terence
No,
Crawford, Errol Spence, Ugas, Keith Thurman.
Right.
It goes on. I mean, when it comes to welterweight, okay, you got that unlocked. The lightweights, 135, the young guns, Teofimo, Tank, Ryan Garcia. You see what I'm saying? So it really depends on the weight class.
Now, Devin
Haney
probably do UK. He should because he's with DAZN, but he still fights over here. If I'm Devin Haney, I would, since I'm with DAZN, I would fight in the UK because you can build a fan base in the UK that this is the thing about the UK fan base, and this is where I'll give you guys credit. You guys will support boxing a lot better than we do over here in the US. So if Devin Haney was to grow a UK fan base, that's when Teofimo Lopez and these guys can't duck him no more because you've got a fan base that you can look at and say, we can make some money with this fight. That's the reason why when you're looking at Callum Smith and Canelo Alvarez, that's why you're looking at that fight, because it's like, we can make money here, you know, with that fight, with that UK fan base. It's the reason why Deontay Wilder chose Tyson Fury in the first place. You know, the super middleweight division with Callum Smith and, of course, Billy Joe Saunders, you know. So, yeah, man.
What I would say is that the UK fans, they kind of like a tear up, right? So they like guys both going at it. A technician like Devin Haney, I'm not quite sure. Obviously, look, the hardcores like myself, I would appreciate Devin Haney. I'll be looking for more than a knockout. I'll be looking for certain things. You know what I mean? The technical stuff. But the casuals, they just want the knockouts, which is it. So Devin Haney ain't really about that. You know, it's about skills.
Lawrence Okoli, really, though. Lawrence Okoli fights can be a little boring. Like, you know, Lawrence Okoli, some of his fights, and I like Lawrence Okoli. I don't have a problem with how he goes about it, right? And, you know, there are times when, just like Rigondeaux, right? You know, I like that technical style, but you're right, because both those dudes have put me to sleep, right? Now, this last fight by Lawrence Okoli, I was impressed. He went out there and he went out there. He looked like he showed me he wanted, he did what he's supposed to do. When you got a guy in there you're better than, and man, I always say this on the last show, and you know you got a title shot on the line. He went out there and great. But there are some Lawrence Okoli fights where you like when he fought Isaac Chamberlain, you know. So I get that they want to tear up, but I think that, and I could be wrong, you can tell me. I think most of the time, whether it's a tear up or it's not a tear up, UK fans still at least will come out and support the sport, though.
100.
I mean, do you think I'm wrong with that?
No, we you know, we love the sport, and I think we love big fights. So definitely, I see it from that angle. But again, the UK fans like, you know, blood and guts, you know, tear ups rather than the technical side of things. You know, that's what gets us kind of excited. But hey, look, listen, if Devin Haney came over here, I'm sure a lot of people will want to go and watch him fight if there's no COVID restrictions. So, all right, guys, smash that like button. Three Kings Boxing, Bo, Pro Beezy, Pep Talk UK. Subscribe also as well. Right, I'm going to get through as many of your questions as possible, and we might get Chris Lovejoy back as well. Okay, so, all right. Matthew De Souza, Callum Smith hasn't beaten an elite fighter. Why do people rate him? Based on what?
Well, based on the eye test, based on the talent, based on the fact that he is the champion. Also, he won the WBSS tournament. Now, the WBSS tournament that he was in wasn't nowhere near like the one that Andre Ward was in back in 2009, I think it was, that ended in 2012. So it wasn't as loaded as that, but still, all in all, he did win that tournament. He's a WBA super champion, and he does have a good skill set, right? So you have to rate him because he is a champion. You have to rate him that, right? And you have to rate him higher. Like for me, if you was asking me, yo, who's the top super middleweight? I would tell you Callum Smith. Why? Outside the fact he's a champion, he also won the WBSS tournament. That puts him over those guys just a little bit. Again, was it watered down? Yeah, but he still had to go out there and he still had to win, right? So I'm not saying that he's an elite fighter. I'm saying that he's a B plus level type fighter, right? Is the talent there? Is the skill set there? And all of he does. Like he passes that eye test, right? But sometimes he has a habit of being inconsistent because he goes out, he wins the WBSS tournament, and he gets a gift decision against John Ryder. You see what I'm saying? So when you go out and you perform like this, then you give me a performance like this, then people are gonna, and then maybe your next fight you move it up a little bit, then people are gonna like kind of feel like, are we overhyping this dude? Sometimes fighters will fight to the level of their competition.
Okay. I'm going to throw this back at you, right? Okay. We're going to get in, all right? For argument's sake, you could say that is not his best performance against John Ryder has got him the Canelo fight. How about that?
Oh, that's because, the zone is like, Canelo, you got to fight somebody. Canelo back was against the wall because you can't go from fighting Callum. You're going to fight Caleb Plant, right?
Mm-hmm.
Right. So you can't go from Caleb Plant to going back to say, okay, man, we'll fight Omni Yurdaman. No. If you ain't fight Caleb Plant, you better be fighting one of the other champions in that division, right? So even though you're right, he did have a bad performance, but he still came from up out of that performance with a title belt that still keeps you in position to be able to fight Canelo Alvarez. Because like I said earlier, whether he looked good or look bad, the most important thing is to get that W. That's the most important. Because if you don't get that W, John Ryder is the dude that's sitting in that position that Canelo Alvarez is going to fight, not you. So above all, man, you got to get that W.
Would you also say as well, like with Billy Joe Saunders as well, I thought he was good in his last fight against Martin Murray. But again, some people are looking for much more. But again, will that also as well help him to get a big fight against the likes of Canelo moving forward? Because the more dangerous the fighter, sometimes the more avoided.
That's true. The more dangerous fighter, the more avoided. But when it comes to Canelo Alvarez, I don't think that's as much true because Canelo has so much behind him that you're already 3 or 4 rounds down when you go to step the ring. Now, there is a case that can be made for one Boo Boo Andrade, right? He's been chasing Canelo Alvarez back when Boo Boo was a 154-pound champion. He's been trying to get Canelo Alvarez to fight him ever since then, right? But I think the situation with Boo Boo is high risk, extremely low reward. Because first of all, there's no money if we fight you. That's number one. There's no money in it if we fight you. All right. My guy's gonna have to come in. Is there a possible chance that I don't think it's so much as losing as you will look bad. Demetrius Andrade will make him look bad. Right? And by Demetrius Andrade making Canelo look bad, that's a tough sale. You know what I'm saying? Like Gennady Golovkin, it wasn't so much that I think they were worried about him losing Andre Ward. I think they were worried about how Andre Ward's going to make him look bad. So now we can't sell him as this unbeatable, destructive force because you just got in the ring and dude just made you look bad. And sometimes looking bad in the ring is worse than actually losing. Because if like, for example, Manny Pacquiao didn't really lose anything by getting knocked out by Marquez. It was a competitive fight. It was a competitive fight. It was full of energy. They was giving it to us. But if Marquez made Manny Pacquiao, he outclassed him and made him look bad, then knocked him out. Now you're going to lose steam because you look bad. Like Deontay Wilder, for example, right? He looked bad. Not only get knocked out, you look bad, dog. You look bad in that rematch. So, yeah, I think fighters are worried about more looking bad, or promoters are worried about looking bad because, mind you, the way you're selling this product is it's an unbeatable thing. You know what I'm saying? Or like you have to sell him like he's an exciting fighter and he's an unbeatable thing. But if you look bad, then it's like I can't put you in the ring and make you look bad, And I think that's the fighters themselves are not, mind you, these guys have seen each other in amateurs. They've actually fought each other for free in the amateurs. So they're not afraid of fighting each other. That's not a thing with them, right? But when money starts to get involved, it's a different type of complex in turning that wheel right there, man.
Mm. It's funny that you say that, because I feel like also as well, how a fighter can sell a fight also as well is quite important, because Adrian Broner, okay, yes, he's taken quite a few L's of late, but when he starts talking trash and talking smack, we get convinced, and then we tune in.
Yeah, it's the train wreck. We want to see that train wreck. You know what I'm saying? Like, we want to see that train wreck, baby. We want to see that train wreck.
All right. Okay. Only film in focus. What does it take to defeat Canelo? What are his weaknesses, Bo?
What's going to take to defeat Canelo is he's going to have to go up against somebody that has the same thing that he has behind them, and is just as big of a name as him, right? Think about the only guy that ever beat him was Floyd Mayweather, and that's because Floyd actually got he didn't get unanimous decision. I think that was a split decision or majority decision, because one Adelaide Berg called it a draw, right?
Yeah.
Right. Called it a draw.
Yeah.
Now, think about that for a second. Floyd Mayweather, at the height of his career, was way above Canelo Alvarez, and Canelo still got a draw. So it's going to take someone of that caliber to beat Canelo Alvarez. Now, what are some of his weaknesses? Canelo Alvarez, he used to have bricks in his feet. Now he moves his feet a little bit more. Another one of his weaknesses is Canelo Alvarez is very susceptible to the jab. If you watch the Austin Trout fight, when Gennady Golovkin was letting his hands go,
yes,
right?
Yep.
He was able to let his hands go, and even Daniel Jacobs was having success. So he is susceptible to the jab. Canelo's also susceptible to counter punches. So because Floyd Mayweather did it, so those are some of the things you have to work on. Canelo Alvarez's biggest weakness to me, though, is when he fight extremely athletic fighters also as well. He struggles a little bit against the more athletic fighters, which is why Boo Andrade posed a huge threat, because Daniel Jacobs and none of those guys is nowhere near as athletic as Demetrius Andrade. So those are some of his weaknesses. Remember when he fought Eslandi Lara? It was because of the Floyd fight that he knew what to do, but a lot of athleticism and movement was giving him a trouble, and that jab, right? He was boxing him, right? So the jab, athleticism, and countering are some of and counterpunching are some of the weaknesses of Canelo Alvarez. But Canelo Alvarez does everything else so well that you have to be a fighter of his caliber with something behind you like that as well to beat him. Because right now, I'm gonna say it again, Floyd Mayweather didn't get a unanimous decision. He got a majority decision. And this one, Floyd was way above Canelo Alvarez. So he's right now, he is one of the toughest dudes to beat in boxing right now.
Is it right in saying that there's a chance for Callum Smith? Because a lot of people say that I like Canelo, but I feel like he was at his best at middleweight rather than super middle. Is that the hope for Callum Smith?
I think the thing about it is that I don't think it's so much as the weight factor, because Canelo's a big boy. I think it's the height factor. He's not very tall. They have him listed, at 5'11"? I bet Canelo's not even 5'11". He's 5'9", maybe 5'10" best, right? So they list him at 5'11". And Callum Smith is 6'2", 6'3"? Okay. So you have the height, you have the reach. And I think that alone poses a problem. If Callum Smith can be able to box and keep Canelo on the outside and don't get trapped in the corner, don't get his back up against the ropes, while Canelo can get inside on him. Because Canelo is an excellent body puncher, right? Callum Smith is going to have to try to keep that fight at range and in the middle of the ring. He can't try and trade with Canelo Alvarez. You won't win that either. Canelo is very good at judging distance, and Canelo is very good at getting on the inside. So I think Callum is a good opponent for him. Just like I thought Caleb Plant was a really good opponent for him. So Canelo fighting a super middleweight, I don't think is that big of a problem from a activity standpoint, but I does think it raises a problem from a just a height and reach standpoint, because he's going to be at a huge disadvantage. But now, mind you, he also fought Kovalev also, who he was at a huge disadvantage of, and he was able to figure out how to get inside on that. So it's tough, man. Listen, it's hard to beat at this point in his career. It's hard to beat Canelo Alvarez, man.
Yeah, and you mentioned Kovalev, and Kovalev for some point in the first half of the fight was doing well with the jab and the reach advantage. Callum Smith, taller fighter, he got a very good jab also as well.
Yeah, he does.
So
he does. Yeah, he does. Callum Smith has a very good jab.
There's hope. There's hope. Nothing's impossible, right?
No. This is boxing, man. Nothing is beyond thought. This is boxing, man.
All right, guys, smash that like button. Get your questions in. Okay, so, all right, George Gororia. Okay, Smith's best win was a shot at George Groves. He needed surgery after Eubank Jr. and wasn't the same after the fight. So, basically, Callum Smith won against George Grove that wasn't at his best. That's what the viewer's saying.
Right.
Is that? Would you agree? Would you agree with that?
Nah. His best win was George Groves. I have to go back and make sure I'm talking about the right fight. You got to understand, Callum Smith has been fighting on the domestic level. So you want to say his best win was Groves?
You were saying that you basically the viewer's saying that he beat Groves, but Groves wasn't at his best because he had surgery.
No, he wasn't
at the time, and that was the latter part of his career. So,
no, I agree with that. Now that I agree with that. George Groves wasn't at his best because he had the surgery, right? And he never got a chance to test out to see if he fully recovered from the surgery because he had to go right into a fight with Callum Smith. So I definitely agree with that. But the other guys that he fought, because mind you, nobody was looking for Callum Smith at that time. Like Callum Smith in a lot of people's minds was still looked at as a domestic level C plus level fighter, right? So he goes out and he fights Skoklin. Who else did he fight in that tournament? I know he fought Skoklin. Did he fight Yildirim?
Who?
Callum Smith in that tournament. I know Skoklin is one of the guys he fought in that tournament. Fought Skoklin. Who else did he fight in that tournament? I can't remember. I thought he fought Yildirim.
Yeah, Skoklin and Dane. I remember that.
Right, Skoklin. I think he fought Yildirim.
I think so. I'm not sure. I can't even remember.
Yeah.
But
I can't remember. I can't remember the names, guys. Forgive me for that. But I know that he made his name off of winning that tournament. But prior to that tournament, I think he knocked out Rocky Fielding. I think at that time Rocky Fielding was undefeated, if I'm not mistaken, when he knocked out Rocky Fielding. So he knocked out Rocky Fielding. So if you want to say his best win, you know what? I won't argue his best win. If you want to say his best win was George Groves, I won't argue that too much, right? But at the same time, though, let's give him props because you still got to go through the UK circuit, which means you got to win the British title, you got to win the BBOC, you know what I'm saying? You got to win the European, the Commonwealth, and then he won a world title, then along with the WBSS tournament. So you got to give him props.
He went through the levels.
Yeah.
All right. Exactly. All right. Audi alias TT. Callum Smith looked weak versus Ryder. Looked weight drained. Was that poor conditioning?
That's very.
He's a big guy, and he could campaign at light heavyweight. He's that big.
That's a very very good question. It could be poor conditioning. It could be a situation where he didn't allow himself the proper amount of time to get down the weight, and then sometime if you don't rehydrate properly and correctly, Malik Hawkins fought on the Showtime undercard. He fought the guy that wound up he fought Dadashev, and Dadashev wound up dying. I can't remember that guy's name right now. But Malik Hawkins fought that guy, and Malik Hawkins said that he didn't rehydrate properly. And that's why in the second half of the fight, he definitely looked weak. So sometimes not getting down in weight properly and then not rehydrating properly can cause you to affect. So I wouldn't be surprised if that was something that actually happened to Callum Smith, because he's a big super middleweight, man. He reminds me of like David Benavidez, big super middleweight. Man. David Benavidez was a 220-pound dude that took boxing to lose weight and became a fighter. So he could easily campaign at 175 or even cruiserweight, you know. So I think the next move for Callum Smith, if he gets Canelo Alvarez, should be light heavyweight.
All right. Okay. All right. We've got how long you got, Bo? What?
About
5 minutes? 10 minutes at the
10
most. Okay. So Prabez Sharma, regarding AJ versus Fury, do you guys think the racial narrative is going to override the fight itself? Can see a bit of that already, or is it just normal when you have a rivalry? Very, very good question, because
very good question.
That's out there. That's out there. I'm not saying that, but I'm saying that's out there.
Yeah.
So he just brought the smoke right to your lap.
Yeah, he sure did. And guess what? I'm gonna throw some gasoline on this fucking fire. Anytime you have black and white, there's always a racial issue. Because black versus white is always a rivalry. They was doing it when it was Anthony Joshua when it was Deontay Wilder over here versus Tyson Fury, right? And mind you, and I remember there was a question Fury was asked. Wilder was asked, and then Fury was asked. Same question is, how do you feel about fighting on Black History Month, Tyson Fury? And I knew exactly what the guy that asked that question meant, which is, how do you feel representing the black race fighting this race, the white race over here? Also remember when Deontay Wilder did the whole to this day, my people remember when he was in Tyson Fury face, my people been enslaved 400 years to this day, and all of that. So anytime you have in boxing black versus white, there's always going to be some type of racial situation there, because black versus white is a rivalry in itself, right? So I think that you're gonna have it, but I think it's going to be bigger in this fight because of the positions that Anthony Joshua took when he was reading that, the whole reading that letter, the whole saying, if y'all think I'm racist, you know what I'm saying, go F yourselves. So I definitely think it's going to be higher. However, I don't think it's going to overtake the fight like it did when you had a Larry Holmes versus Gary Clooney. I don't think you're going to have it at that level when you had Joe Louis versus James Braddock. I don't think it's going to be at that height of a level, but I do think you're going to have a little bit of the element involved in it, man.
I would add to that listen, for me, I've spoken to black guys as well that they siding with Fury. They siding with Fury, and then obviously you got some white boxing fans as well that are siding with AJ. So I think people will look past that. When it's a massive fight like that, you like who you like, and you appreciate skills. You appreciate skills. You appreciate abilities, and you appreciate what the fighters are about. Full stop. So people in this day and age don't get too overclouded by that. I don't think. You know what I mean? Because if you look in America, a lot of people have praised Tyson Fury, for what he did in the second fight. Oh, he got skills, this, that, moved nice. So that narrative doesn't really, it's not the prominent narrative, it's about the abilities of the fighter and how he performed.
And I think another thing that feeds that narrative is how the fight is presented to you, how the media will present the fight to you, right? And the fighters. If the media presents it to you that way, then that's why that element is going to be there, because that's how the media is presented to you, right? If the media don't present, and I don't know about how UK media works. Okay, I know over here in the US, they feed off of that because that generates money. Let's understand, rivalries generate money, whether it's a good rivalry, whether it's a bad rivalry, whether it's a racial issue in the rivalry, or whether it's a I'm better than you in the I beat you before in the rivalry, right? It's all about generating that money. So if the media feels that going that route is what's going to generate the most money, then that's what they're going to do, right? And it's up to them. You got a cat in here, man. Audi Elias TT.
Yeah.
He said, Pep, Bo, the fact that AJ is Nigerian and Fury travels UK won't get energy. It won't get energy from fighters.
Okay. Okay. So I don't really understand the angle on that, but I think what he's saying is, I think. Anyway, we'll move on. You know, we don't want to twist. We don't want to twist anything up. All right. So, guys, I've got a few more questions left. Callum Swift versus Canelo this weekend. Let us know what you think. Triple G's back in action this Friday.
All right. Thunder Road said Eubanks fought Yildirim and knocked him out in the second round. Okay.
Okay.
I couldn't remember. I couldn't remember who it was. I appreciate that, man. Listen, I don't listen. I'm not one of them guys that be like, "Oh, I know everything." Shut up. No. If I'm wrong, correct me. Please correct me. I don't know everything, so please correct me, man. I don't have a problem with being corrected.
All right, guys, smash that like button, subscribe. You ain't subscribed already. If you want to donate to the channel, send a super chat. Also, subscribe to Free Kings Boxing as well. Check out their website, the latest boxing news right on the pulse.
Yeah, baby.
As soon as that news pop, Bo's got on the website just like that.
Yep.
All right, okay. So, Darren, Ojen, what is the contract situation? Obligations between Fury and Queensberry and Fury and BT? Good question.
Well, you got to understand right now his co-promotion is ESPN. So although Queensberry Promotion is his promoter, he has a co-promotional contract with ESPN, which the boxing portion of that is ran by Top Rank. So that's the reason why when Tyson Fury fights, he fights on the Top Rank, because the boxing portion that is ran by Top Rank, right? And that's not surprising. Remember, once upon a time, Queensberry Promotion did a contract with ESPN. So at that time, Tyson Fury hadn't slid over yet. He was still on the outskirts. After the Wilder fight, they slid him over because they saw how much money that was. And they were, oh, wait a minute, let's bring him on over here. So I think when it comes to Queensberry, when it comes to BT, I think their focus is, although we probably can show you the fight on BT Sports, which is fine, their main focus is ESPN because it's globally the
biggest
sports. Yeah, sports, anything in sports, it's ESPN. So they're focused on building it there, because if we build it there, it can reach out. It's like you got this right here, and then you got them little pockets. So okay, we ESPN, BT Sports, UK, China, USA, and all of that. So I think that his contract obligation is more so with ESPN and that such than it is with Queensberry. He's going to stay with Frank Warren because Frank Warren's been good to him.
All right. Okay, guys. All right. I think that's a wrap. That's a wrap.
That's a wrap.
All right. Guys, smash that like button. Time's running out for you guys. Oh, you want to do one more?
Yeah, my man said, Bo, Tank is my boy, explosive. How does he improve defensively? That's nice.
Moving his head.
Well, move his head. You got to move his head more. Also work on more of his footwork. I think Tank, he got to work on his footwork a little bit more. Tank has a tendency. Remember, he was fighting Leo Santa Cruz. He was right on the center line. That's why Santa Cruz was able to hit back with
run. Yeah,
because he's right there on the center line, So he's got to move his head and work on his footwork. You're never supposed to stay on the center line in front of a guy, man. Those are some defensive things he has to work on. But I think a guy like Tank it's going to be hard to get him to be a defensive-minded fighter because he's an offensive-minded fighter. Because he knows he's explosive. He knows if I hit you, what's going to happen. So it's going to be very, very hard for him. But, the thing of it is the fact that he lacks defense is what makes Tank Davis an exciting fighter. Because he lacks that defense. So, he's there to be hit and there to hit you. So that's what makes him exciting. And that's what makes his fight sometimes exciting, because you're not going to see somebody dominate him, but at the same time, he's hittable. And people generally like fights where one guy isn't going to be extremely dominant. Like if one guy, like Mike Tyson fights were good because he would be dominant, but he gave you knockouts. But like Devin Haney dominated Uakis Gamboa for 12 rounds.
Yeah.
But he didn't give me a knockout, so it's like, okay. So I know you're going to dominate this dude. The fights where fans aren't sure of what the outcome will be, that's what makes that what makes that a good fight, and fans are going to want to see that fight, man.
Just to add to that point, Devin Haney did say when I interviewed him, he said that, like, what's the big deal? You know, I dominated Gamboa for 12 rounds. He never won a round. And he said, "Why y'all want me to take punishment?"
Yeah. That was Pep Talk UK. They interviewed him too. I remember. I watched the interview, and I still have to listen. And I get what Devin Haney is saying, right? But you can have exciting fights without taking punishment. Teofimo Lopez didn't take a lot of punishment against Vasyl Lomachenko.
Yeah. That's a good point. That's a good point.
Gennady Golovkin didn't take a lot of punishment in a lot of his fights up until even Canelo. I think the one fight he might that you can say he took a lot of punishments when he fought Sergey Derevyanchenko. He looked at old, you know. But Gennady Golovkin didn't take a lot of punishment, and he was knocking guys out and getting him out there. He was an exciting fighter, right? So Devin Haney is missing that point. Is you can there's plenty of times fighters have not taken a lot of punishment and still gave you an exciting fight. I don't think Tank Davis took a lot of punishment in the Leo Santa Cruz fight and still wound up getting the knockout, right? So I understand where he's coming from. Basically, what he's trying to say is, man, listen, man, this is working for me. Why should I take a risk or chance when it's working for me? And the thing is, you have to take those risks and chance if you want people to pay their money to come and see you, or if you want some of these other guys to take the risk to get in the ring with you. Because mind you, you're at that level where it's about money. It's about that. It's sorry, man. It's about that bag.
About the bag.
About that bag, baby. You want to know what's about that bag. So if you're not doing something where guys be like, okay, man, take him a bag, there's no point in them even thinking about fighting you, man.
All right. Bo, it's been a pleasure.
My man.
It's been a pleasure. We got to thank the viewers for locking in the United Nations boxing show, the UK and the USA. How about that? All right, guys. Thanks for joining us. Smash that like button, subscribe. We out here. Thank you.